Hello, this is Bill Quackenbush. If you haven't watched any of my series of the stories of my life, I would suggest going back. That way you can see right where we're at now. But I mentioned about some stories going to summer Bible school. I went through this one time and my mom wrote down what I said when I came home. I mentioned that I would read them, find them if I could, and read them, and I found them. So, my mom had all this saved, and she put on there as a title, Bible Stories as Told by My 4-Year-Old Bill, August through September 1968. Okay. First story. Noah and the Ark. You know what, Mama? God made it rain and rain and rain. And he made Noah build an ark. And he put people and all the animals in it. And a lot of people laughed and laughed, and God made it rain a lot, and the people couldn't swim. Then Jesus sent out a dove that was white, and it flew and flew and flew and flew all around and brought back a thing to the ark and saved all the people. Then God put a big round thing in the sky so all the people would know he would never, never, never do that again. Okay, this is a 4-year-old interpreting what he's been told, okay? Second day. Story of Moses. God gave the people a baby. The soldiers were coming, and the mother hided her baby. The sister hid it in the grass. They forgot the princess was coming. The princess opened the baby crib. The mother said the princess could have her baby. And you know what? God was so mad at that mother and the sister for giving that baby to the princess that he made them all go down to hell. Okay. It's traumatic of a baby being given away by their mother when you're 4 years old and don't understand. Okay. Third or final story. David and Goliath. There was David, and he was just a little boy. He wasn't even a man. And he had a swing shot, and he put it in his pocket, and he banged lions with it. Then there was the giant. God's people were in the enemy camp, and the giant said, "Send somebody over here to fight me." Then they put heavy clothes on David, and he couldn't even walk. So he took off the clothes and put his swing shot clothes on. Then he put rocks in his swing shot, and he banged the lion dead. Then he got out the giant's knife and cut his head off. Then God's people said, "Yay, yay, yay for David." And that's the end of the Bible story. They're kind of funny. I like them. Cute. Isn't it something how the mind of children protects itself in some ways? can only protect so much. But there's just some information that children will not be able to understand. Excuse me while I pick up my stuff to fill. They will not be able to understand it in the way that we're telling, because it's too complicated, the story. So it's okay. You can still tell the story, Bible stories, and you can always come back and make sure they understand it later. But I remember very well these times. But anyway, that's a little side note. It's going backwards a little bit, but I did tell you I would read it if I could find it. So we were in Gastonia, in our new house. We ended up with a couple dogs. And, well, we had one dog who had babies. We didn't know she was pregnant when we got her. We kept one of them. And it was really sad because they got mange. You know, we don't see mange anymore these days. I haven't seen it in forever. But they got it really, really bad, and they kept trying to help fix them. But it never did go away. And my stepfather put them down. Yeah. And then he bought me another dog. And now looking back at it, how much I watch The Five with Dana Perino and her. Well, she's had 3 dogs that I've seen. They were all Vizsla. And I believe that's what our dog Rusty was. And Rusty was funny. My stepfather always just tease and think he was a dumb dog, but he actually was pretty cool. And like if I pretended to be hurt, he would help to try to pull me when I was having my arm around him. I mean, it's mostly just pretend stuff, right? But he was cute and everything. I don't remember what happened to him. He disappeared at some point. No telling what happened at all. But yeah, that neighborhood was pretty crazy. We had some interesting people on the block. I had mentioned to you before I was taking martial arts during the time. And kid taking karate, and he's excited about it. So I walked down the street with my karate outfit on until I got really picked on. These kids that were just really redneck kind of kids. They were twins. Red hair, freckles, a lot older than me. They would come up behind me and step on the backs of the heels of my shoes try to make them come off. And they say, "Come on, Kung Fu, come on, show us some of your Kung Fu. Let's do it. Come on." And I would just keep walking. And but they just, from time to time, would just pick at me, mess with me, and chase me sometimes. But I remember if I walked across the street from my house, there was some woods there, and me and my friends, we found this large, just like a big, creek that was mostly dried up, but it was very deep. There just wasn't much water in there, and there was a mattress at the bottom of it. Actually, the water didn't even come up to it. And various people had tied rope and things like that on this big branch that went up over this huge embankment. Looking back at it, being a little kid, obviously it looks bigger to me then than it would now, but it was at least I would say about 15 feet wide and probably about 6 feet deep. At least that, yeah, because people had a hard time going across it. But us kids, we would want to jump onto the rope, okay? But the first time I ever did it, I was fine going. And then coming back one time, it was a lot scarier because it was a higher embankment going back, and the rope was further out from you. So you had to jump kind of far and trust you're going to be able to grab that rope, and then you would go the rest of the way across. If you fell, that's why they had the mattress down there, just in case, because it was a long way down. Well, somebody had put a hose up there and tied it together, or another hose, and tied it around the tree. And I'm sure it was my first time, or really close to the first time I had done it, and I jumped off that edge coming back, grabbed that hose, and as I was swinging out, the hose slipped apart, and I fell, boom, flat on my back, on that mattress. I couldn't breathe. It was terrible. But we, got it fixed. We got another one. We got an actual good rope, and we kept doing it. And we would be really fast. We could run through the woods and then just jump and grab that rope and swing across. Felt like Tarzan, especially the one coming back. But one time those two brothers chased me into the woods, and I'm running, and I don't know if they'd ever seen that, but I jumped, swung across, hit the other side, and kept running. They did not even attempt to do it. They were a lot bigger than me. They didn't even attempt to. They just crawled down to the bottom of it and crawled back up the other side of it. And by that time, I was gone. I was hiding. I saw them probably about 100 yards away from me in the woods, walking through the path, and I just took off. They saw me. They started chasing me. But I took off so fast, and then I jumped. I just leaped for that rope, grabbed it, swung across there, hopped off the rope, ran out of those woods, and ran into my house. Ran across the street, ran into my house, and they didn't catch me. And my friend, one of my good friends, his name was George, and George and I would hang out a lot. We'd find little hiding places to go. We just did fun stuff together, hang out at each other's house. And he had an older brother, was always really nice to me, really cool guy. I liked him a lot. And I'll never forget, those two guys walking behind me, same thing, picking at me, messing with me, pushing. And I'm going to George's house. His brother happened to be outside cleaning his car or something. He was cleaning or polishing or something. And he says, "Hey, y'all better leave him alone. I'll say, kick your you-know-what." And then they started arguing, like, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And one of them picks up a brick. And it went so fast. This guy, I don't even remember his name, but it's George's brother. He goes up and he smashes that brick. He grabs it, gets a brick out of the guy's hand, and smashes it up against his head. He jumps on the other guy, puts his arm around his head. He opens up his car door, puts the guy's head in it, and slams the car door on his head. I'm not kidding. They're very violent. And then those guys took off. Ran. There was one guy beat the crap out of these two brothers. He wasn't no big guy either. He was just average sized guy. He wasn't bigger than them. He was around the same age, older teenager. But he was my hero that day. And they never bothered me after that. Go figure, right? But I did find out they were breaking into people's homes, and they got arrested, and they were taken off. So I didn't ever see them again because they had gotten in so much trouble with the law that they were taken away. So I'm not sure what happened. But in the meantime, I met some friends around the block. Yeah. And they had come there from a farm that they had owned, and I think what's the word I'm looking for? It failed as a business, or I don't know exactly. But for some reason they had to get rid of it, sell it, or whatever, and so they moved into this house in our neighborhood. I became friends with the older side. He was 13, a few years older than me. And he seemed all right at first. He was funny and all, but when I went into his house, oh my goodness. You would think they were the animals on the farm. Seriously, it was looked like feces on there. It had been old. It had not been completely cleaned up. It was definitely tobacco, dried up tobacco, because this kid chewed tobacco all the time, and he just would spit it anywhere. And I met his sister. The sister's what made me keep coming back. She was 10 when I was 9, so she was a year older than me. When I became 10, she was 11. That's around the time that I knew her. And she became a girlfriend, basically. And she was so cute, but she smoked like a stack. At 10, you know. Believe it or not, back then that wasn't as uncommon as it sounds. It wasn't common at 10, but younger people were smoking during those times. It was more accepted. No matter how crazy it may seem today, because it didn't, nobody bat an eye, and she didn't have to sneak around. The thing I noticed, though, I never saw her parents. I met them finally one night because this 10-year-old girl, was in charge of the home because their parents worked till, I don't know, 9, 10. They would come home late, and she was expected to have dinner ready for them. And she cooked, like, big time meals for her family. And I met them. They smoked too, very much. I mean, it was horrible around there, the smell. They would yell about, hey, y'all need to clean this place up, but they didn't ever do anything about it. So, and then I noticed she's smoking right there in front of them, and they didn't care. It was like no big deal. So I'm like, okay. But then, you know, they out there want me to spend the night. I spent the night, slept on Eugene's floor. Oh my goodness, it was disgusting. Spent the day with him, and he shot and killed squirrels, stuff like that. I saw him for the first time I'd ever seen anybody dress an animal was Eugene cutting up those squirrels. Yeah, it was gross. It was really gross, and there were squirrels, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? Why are y'all eating squirrels? He's like, oh, squirrel meat's good, you know. Oh my goodness. During this time, I had already developed this kind of a, like, I don't know, people call it like invisible friend, you know, whatever you made up. To this day, I can't say that it was definitely not real. I know it sounds kind of crazy, because sometimes I don't think, I mean, I called Johnny, he was my special friend that nobody could see. But I think what it really was is that I felt this presence of the Holy Spirit a lot of times, so I would talk to the Lord, but a lot of times I thought I was talking to somebody else. It was like an angel or a guardian angel, which I do believe in guardian angels, but they rarely show themselves. And I didn't have an appearance of anyone, nothing like that. I was just a little kid. And so I would do that. And then I felt like the Lord helped me communicate to animals. And whether this is true or not, I mean, I believed it. So when Eugene got his shotgun out and he wanted to shoot one of the birds, and I would like do something make some kind of signal, and I'm going to give you an example because it's so silly, but when I would do that, they would fly away. Coincidence, probably so, but it happened every time. And I told him, I'm letting him know, and he would be like, "You need to stop. I'm trying to get me a bird." So he started believing it because it was like every time he wasn't able to shoot the bird or whatever he was shooting at, which is so silly looking back at it though. But I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Who knows? Because the Lord does a lot of things for kids because of their childlike faith. So I will not even say whether was actually a real thing because I don't know really. Would God do that for me as a kid? Maybe to strengthen my faith and my trust in Him. I was just a little kid, so a lot of things it was easy to accept things by faith, and that's how the Lord wants us to be with Him, like children, right? Where we just trust, we trust and obey, and we understand how much He loves us. It's a natural thing, not a thing that we're always striving to get, because He just does. And that goes into a lot of things when it comes to church about legalism and stuff that I'm not going to go into right now. But when we do become legalistic and we're always pushing to prove ourselves to God, then we are kind of missing the point. Because God's love is free and it is a gift. Not that He doesn't want us to do things for Him, but He doesn't want us to have the mindset that what we do is what's earning our way to God, because you can't earn your way to God. And those are principles, I guess, I started learning when I was really young. The other thing I learned is that the Holy Spirit can use anybody, right? I had Shelton, my girlfriend from back before, I'll never forget telling her she was being so disrespectful to her mom that she needed to apologize and all this stuff, and she got mad at me. And then her mom coming and asking me for advice on what to do about Shelton, and me giving her advice. I did not know enough in and of myself to be able to do that, but the Holy Spirit knows everything. And so even being young and being open and being led, I could speak to that situation. And this was a theme that happened a lot when I was a kid. Even the older I got, more and more people, parents of friends coming to me, asking me for advice about their kids or, family things. So, and that was always what I was interested in anyway. Just having a family, being a husband and a father. That is the theme of my life that I always wanted and I pushed for. I guess because it affected me so much when my parents, split, that I just desperately wanted to have it and do it right. As you'll see, I made a lot of mistakes anyway. And we all do. And we have to, understand that and move on, but because we're not going to be perfect, period. So anyway, that whole thing with Eugene got really weird because he would, all of a sudden I noticed that it's terrible. He would get an erection and chase his sister around the house. And I'm like, kind of trying to yell at him and stuff, and she would say, she'd like, don't, just don't, I'll hide. He won't be able to find me. He does this all the time. I'm thinking, what in the world? This girl's running and hiding from her brother. I couldn't physically have stopped him. He was twice my size. I didn't know what to do even. And yeah, that I'll never understand. It's a crazy thing, and she didn't have anybody there to protect her. You know, parents were not around. So, but on a lighter note, you know, I kissed her and all this stuff, and you know, and she wanted to see me, so I showed her me, and she's like, "Oh, it's so cute," because that's not anybody wants to hear, right? I don't know, but you know, because she said they were comparing me to her brother, who was crude, and you know, I'm just a little kid, so like I said, I had played show and tell already with Shelton, but anyway, so these are just kind of nutty things, I guess, that happen when you're a kid, but a lot more because I was on my own a lot. I was out and about doing things, and I went over to Eugene's house quite a bit. It's where we learned, or I learned from them, how to catch bats that would fly around the light post at night. You know, we would stuff a sock, put a knot in it, and swing it and throw it up by them, and the radar, they would chase it and try to grab it. When they would, they get stuck in the material and they'd throw something over the bat, you know. But anyway, they let them go, but it was just something to do as a kid. That was fun. And they would also take cats and throw them on the sheet, and then throw the cats up in the air on the sheet, which was not nice at all. So you know, all kinds of weird, crazy things we did as a kid, you know. But that neighborhood was something. It was definitely something else. And the last thing I guess I'll tell you about is when I went through the same woods where the rope was on the tree. I went exploring. And I went through to the other side, and there was a fence and a big open field. And there were horses out there. And I thought to myself, wow, I want to ride a horse. So I got up on the horse, and the horse started running with me. And I never forget, the guy that owned the property, farmer, or whatever he was, I don't know. He came out, he had a shotgun, and he's yelling at me that I better get off the horse. Of course, the horse is running, and I'm like, what am I going to do? So I just slid off the side of the horse, hit the ground, balled up, rolled up, ran into the woods, and ran home. And that was the first time I rode a horse. Just jumping up on him. So that was the beginning of something I absolutely love. And another small miracle for a kid that the Lord did. So those were some good times and some strange times, and there were some bad times. Yeah, I had a little stepbrother who was a good bit younger than me, and he'd come visit. He was the only one really that came around of my stepbrothers from my stepfather. His name's John, and he was a good kid. He liked to follow me around and stuff, but if he got in trouble, then I got in trouble, whether it had anything to do with me or not. So that led to a lot of tension between me and my stepfather. It was a hard time during that time. He was going through stuff, I know, and it took some years before I would come to understand better. But at the time, I just thought, he doesn't like me. He doesn't understand me. And it was a difficult time, like I said. Well, I guess that's going to have to do it for this time, guys. I appreciate you watching, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe. Pass it on to other people that might find some of the stories interesting. I know not everybody's going to like every story. Not everything's going to be as exciting or It's not a movie. It's real life, and there are some really interesting things that have happened. Things that you will find that are a theme throughout this whole thing that have to do with the Lord and how He dealt with me in my life. So I encourage you to encourage others to take a look and see. You never know who will be able to relate. And at some point, we can all talk, which will be nice to discuss things. Can even criticize all the dumb things I've done in my life, and I will understand that. And that's okay. We may disagree. That's fine. But anyway, thank you for watching. And again, like and subscribe and share. All right. Thanks.